Welcome back. This is another video about the personal statement and the medical school entry process. If you want more videos about the medical school entry process after this video, go check out the rest of the channel. I thought it would be pretty good to show you what my personal statement was, other people to see, and perhaps get inspiration from next year. Or even this year, if you haven't sent your one over yet. I know that I didn't send mine till the actual last hour of the deadline 6 o'clock. I sent mine at 5, which of the same day, which is, you know, a stressful position to be in. Sit back, relax, see if you can compare what I did wrong, what I did well, see if you're better than me. Try to see if there's things that you might want to tighten up before the big day. If you've already sent it, well done, relax, enjoy, see what I messed up on, see maybe what you think I did pretty well on, and let's just get into the video. Well, I think my personal statement was pretty strong, and despite the title, I think it still holds some merit. And there are some generally good things I did which helped to portray my want to get into medicine. Whilst now many have seen their personal statements, some have not. And this is for my last minute people. Thus, for my last minute people, this might be a nice statement to compare it to, as it lies within the upper middle rank. And so like a cake, let's just get into the video and start from the intro, the top. I think my intro was fairly strong, as it portrayed two motivations, and I had a good lead into the actual engagement, which was the actual content of my paragraph. My first intro was quite emotional, and that helped to balance the more scientific focus on my first paragraph. This was an intentional thing to kind of split the 50-50 of the human and the scientifical, to make sure that I enjoy both, because medicine is both a human and scientific discipline, and one without the other just doesn't work. It would be like a broken down souffle. I don't know why I'm making so much food jokes in this video, but I digress. My intro was the indescribable feeling I felt after tending to Bleep's wounds, and the admirations I felt for the doctors who tended to my injuries sparked my desire to become a doctor. The good thing about this was that I had two motivations. One which was extrinsic, to show that I'm quite altruistic, and also I noted personal reasons for why I wanted to get into medicine, which is always a plus. And I said sparked a desire instead of made me want to become a doctor right now, because the thing with medical schools is they hate that sort of idea of I wanted to be a doctor since I was in diapers, or stuff like that. They really dislike that inherently, because it's quite cliche when writing a medical personal statement to start off with that, because being a doctor used to be quite a desirable job. I think now it's YouTuber. So that's why I said desire, to make sure that I was still quite balanced in trying to get into medicine. The words here are important. I didn't use vocabulary I wasn't used to using. And it's very important that you do this for the human side of things, because you want to be genuine. And so that just helps you be a little bit more genuine. That's why I think my intro was pretty strong, and how well it led into the engagement. I would rate the intro probably a 7 out of 10 and 8 out of 10. What's stopping it from getting to the 9 out of 10 is that I could have been a lot tighter and with the way that I worded things. The reason I made sure that my intro wasn't its own separate paragraph was for the most important thing, if you take anything out of this video in any of your writing, is attention management. And this is probably the unfair advantage I had, because I was into content creation before then and at the time, and so I kind of knew how you should write things to make sure that you can play with the attention span of the reader, in this case the person getting you into medical school. Remember, these people read thousands of these things, and so you want to be able to incite them and entertain them. If you can be genuinely entertaining without making jokes, without degrading yourself, without making your personal statement worse and less scientific, then you will automatically have a plus. And you do that through starting out with genuinosity, starting out with engagement, starting out with the key factors they're looking for already. Remember, these people, as much as they want to say, nah, you're rejected, they also want to have a few people they accept. And so if you can easily show them these good things at the start, you're a lot better. That's why I think it's the best to make sure that your start is really good. If your middle is not as good, doesn't matter, as long as a few lines of it make up for it. It's probably, you should think about it as a crap sandwich, you know? Very tasty bread on the top, very tasty bottom, and a very tasty bread on the bottom being the conclusion. And then inside, if there's a bit of crap in it, doesn't matter. But the worst thing you can have is fluff. The reason that fluff is so horrible is the same reason that you might change a channel when you're watching TV. When you're watching TV, because it really makes and it really takes things off course, and it makes things more bloated, and so that's the main reason that you wouldn't want fluff. And that would and those are the things that make people start skimming when they feel like you're bullshitting them. My choice of sentence structure was intentional as well. I tried to make things at the start a bit longer to make it seem like I was thinking about medicine a bit like for a very long time as a desired career path, but I also made the engagement and parts very short and snappy to show the sheer velocity of the things that I did. And I tried to make sure that I added different things. So I talked about academic things I like, such as a lecture, which is always good, and also how that led on to reading medical journals, and how that led on to an artistic thing of making videos on those medical journals trying to explain them. Now, you don't need to have made 1,000 videos. If you've made one video or one piece of content relating to somewhat to medicine, then you're golden. For me, I was incredibly lucky that my day job was about uploading and social media management slightly, and so it meant that I was able to talk about these things in a financial setting. Of course, that is something that I left out, and I also left it out and that it wasn't completely about the coronavirus. And those liberties you can take are very important. Don't overextend them, but you can take liberty here. Now, realization and character building and a character arc and the penny drop moment is so important, and that's why I made sure that I put that in at the start. And I said this led me on to research of the topic acting as a gateway to medical journals. Whilst reading the journals, I realized that to a layperson, they were incomprehensible. The reason this is so important is that I added that I'm not a medical person. I haven't studied medicine, but I just have an interest in it, which shows humility here. But I also said that I found difficulty trying to get into reading more about medicine, and that's important. The reason it's so important is that I show that I'm not a know-it-all, but I love learning, and that's what a university wants, no matter what your course is, that you have a genuine interest in learning. You don't need to be good at it. On that, leading from science to a hobby and trying to interlink them is important. Interlinking everything in your personal statement is somewhat important. Only don't interlink when you want to make a point. It's like water, right? It flows, it flows, it flows, it flows, it flows, and then it stops. You know, there's this great Bruce Lee quote, like
water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot.
But that really works a personal statement. Be as fluid as humanly possible with the way that you lay it out, and try to have those smooth transitions between them, and to make sure that it has a much more of an impact when you do have a hard line stop. Concise is important, and yeah, I've been told a lot that I can be verbose. I can speak. Perhaps from this video, if I didn't edit it, it would be like a million hours long. It'd be incredibly long, and so it's just important, and that you do cut when the time comes, and that's something that I relate back onto my past videos and I'll have a link or a poll or something around here and talking about that, or linking to that video. Fast and doing a lot in a concise time is really to go against that stereotype of wanting to be a doctor in diapers that I referenced before, and trying to go against the grain in that sense. And I also wanted to give a sense of but I didn't want to completely degrade medicine, and I still wanted to give give a sense of my love for medicine, but I wanted to show it as growing. That's why I slowly built up the amount of things I did. I started from one thing related to medicine, which included into another thing, which included into another thing, sort of how, a person would change throughout a series, and to become closer to something. And I tried to really, and my personal statement was less about everything I've done, but my relationship with medicine and what it's taught me along the way, which is a much easier way to build a story around than I want to be a doctor. Remember, I always try to do human, non-human, human, scientific, and try to have that as much as possible. However, there were a ton of crap things that I did, such as the structure. When someone sees your paragraph, if you can make a good 3-person structure of all the lines being equal in the however much you have to write it in, then it automatically makes it better, because when a person sees it, they're like, oh, that's manageable, I want to read that first. And if you're the first thing or the last thing a person reads, you're more likely to be remembered, especially with that good intro and that good outro. Now, I used a couple of points here which relate to things that affected me personally, whether it be an injury or whether it be COVID. Look, I don't want to say utilize it, but utilize it. Utilize those rough points in your life to show something that you can bounce up of and to show a sort of change. You don't want to see, you don't want to portray yourself as a perfect person, but a perfect medical student or a perfect student, and that's why you should try to relate whatever you're doing to how it impacts you. To add, first, to be more genuine, and second, to have to build a good story around you. Think about this as your Wikipedia entry. In many cases, don't say everything, but say everything you want people to know. You might also want to show different points where you've been a leader and not a leader, and all of the other features that I talked about in my last video, and all the other points I talked about in my last video about what a doctor should be, so that you can show that you already have the scaffolding to be a doctor. You just need to hang things upon it, and that's what a medical school will happily do. It's not like they have to build you as a doctor from the ground up. When I say scaffolding, you don't need to be entrenched in medicine that much. My volunteering job at a hospital was basically a glorified receptionist, even though my training wasn't helping dementia. My job at an accountant's office was just that. Now, your retail job could probably lead you on to a lot more things than any of my things could. But if you don't shape it in the way that you want to shape it, by over-embezzling, under-embezzling, but not lying, then you will have basically messed up that potential here. Want to seem human, not just scaffolding, right? So then, to do that, show your hobbies. I think my hobbies of YouTube and filmmaking and design overall, and as well as building computers, things which are completely different from each other, to medicine, which is completely different from that, through just smartly interweaving things. If something links to something else, use it. Use that link to build up the scaffolding, and then the links will sort of, be incredibly strong enough to show any other, design that you want to do. The design in this case, when you're building this house, is probably, and the things that you learn at the job, which really make it more attractive. You want to show things that have caused problems and how you've solved it, because that shows that you are a critical thinker, and again, good scaffolding. But never lie. You don't want CoffeeZilla showing up in your business, man. This was told to me by my mentor, and I'll probably always remember this, because I did it subtly, but I still did it. And it was, don't ever drop names, You don't know who hates who loves who, and who the person who's reading your thing is affiliated to. And so just don't try to use names. Try to make your personal statement nameless, no name dropping. Just build yourself up. You don't want to build someone else up. Adding Oxford may have got me rejected from Liverpool, but it may have not. And these are all the different things that I'm saying. You don't know the impact of what name-dropping a university or name-dropping a professor, especially professor, can do. Only do it if it's of the utmost importance. For me, I had to kind of do it because I was part of the unique program. And then also, if I wrote unique, no one would have known what it is, and no one wants that friction of having to search anything up. And the flow is important. Like I said, try to link everything together, and try to make sure that everything is interwoven in a way that builds up a good story. For example, I talked about, initially I started out, if we refer back to my personal statement, and I started out talking about lectures, then into medical journals, into, and making videos about medical journals, then making videos on my day job to help people in COVID. I speak another language, I speak Somali, which means that I also made videos in Somali in a translated channel, talked about how that community struggled with vaccine prevention and COVID as a whole, and I talked about how I tried to help that, even though the effect that those videos had was so minuscule, I still did it, and that's what is important. Then I talked about my technical skills in filmmaking, and then my technical skills in computer making, and so my A-levels, which was the hard stop there, in order to help that mind get refreshed, the mind of the reader. And I talked about how much I enjoyed being dexterous by building things, and some would say, one of my newer mentors would say that and the body is the biggest thing you can fix, and becoming a doctor is being able to fix bodies, which is, you know, the graduation from being able to fix computers. But then after that, after the hard stop at the A levels, I reverted back to the University of Oxford. At first, it was the lectures, and at the second part, it was the summer school. And I did that to refer to my academics, linking into the talk about A levels and learning to code and building computers. And the way that I was able to develop a mindset which was able to be quite a growth mindset in learning, and a mindset which made me a good student, more or less. Is that true? I don't know, but they believed it, and it wasn't a lie, which is good. And after I talked about jobs, after I talked about stress, being a COVID volunteer is something I related back to, and I related back to an event where this woman who couldn't speak English, this old woman who couldn't speak English, came in, and I had to really help her out and see if I could help her in any way possible without me able to speak the language. And then the person with sign language came in, and that implored me to learn sign language. I talked about how different problems in my life and the ways I can help people were a very big factor in me wanting to do different things to help people, which, of course, is what the main emphasis of being a doctor is altruistic, academic, scientific, a good teacher. I referred that into being a mentor, which was very slightly. I only referenced it once, but as soon as I referenced it, that was it. I did not need to be overbose. Don't be overbose. That is not something that you want. You don't want to be overbose. You want to be fluid, like
water.
what you want to be, you know? You want to be fluid. Talked about from that woman the smiles of patience and why that helps me wanting to improve my professional knowledge, which is a part of being a doctor. You're always improving your professional knowledge. You have your e-portfolio, you're always learning, and you're always trying to see if there's new breakthroughs in the scientific and the community. And I then related into surgeries, and then I used the almighty cyclic structure. I referred back to my intro where I said the doctors who tended to my injuries. I referred back into saying, well, look, my content, the middle showed that I had the skills to be a doctor, but I need you to help me realize it and learn more. First of all, referring back doctor, first line, second line, first line, beginning line, and then the other one is that I helped to show what my duty was, seeing that I had an actual connection, and I always will, and I actually genuinely enjoyed not only learning medicine but being a doctor. And then the third thing is I used indescribable feeling, and I answered the question that I set up in the first paragraph in the intro. What was that indescribable feeling? The indescribable feeling I felt after tending to bleep spoons. What was that feeling? I expanded into it at the end by saying, which sparks in me that indescribable feeling that drives my duty to help according to my skill set, a set which I want to expand as a doctor. I referred back to the intro, my emotions, my skills, and my willingness to learn. Now, this isn't the best personal statement, but I think it's pretty damn good. And I hope that you guys have written something better, which I know you have. Don't doubt yourself here. You have written something better, most likely, but I showed genuinosity here. And if you're still writing your personal statement, I would implore you to try to use that same thing. And hopefully soon I'll be releasing a personal statement guide, and after that an interview guide on how I prepared from the interview without going to any interview preps courses. And after that, I'll release those things for you as videos, and hopefully don't copy this because you guys has a horrible plagiarizing system. I know you guys did well, don't doubt yourselves here, and I'll see you in the next video. Like this video if you liked it, dislike this video if you disliked it. Make sure that you ring my subscribe button and subscribe to my bell. Check out the video over here if you want some more tips on your personal statement. Check out the video here if you want some more tips on your UCAT, and I hope to see you next week.